welcome to another episode of Podcast DX, the show that brings you interviews with people just like you, whose lives were forever changed by a medical diagnosis. I'm Lita. Ron is not with us today.
And I'm Jean Marie.
Collectively, we're the hosts of Podcast DX. On today's show, we are talking about Fibrodysplasia Ossificans Progressiva. I think I said that right. Also abbreviated as FOP, with Kim Shields. Kim is a recent graduate, and she has her master's now in social work and is working on a plan to open a nonprofit to help others with accessibility issues. Hello, Kim, and thank you for joining us today.
Hey, guys. It's so great to be here. I look forward to sharing with your listeners, not viewers, because you can't see us.
I know. It's a good thing sometimes.
I look forward to sharing my story.
Thank you.
So thank you for having me.
Well, yeah, thank you for joining us. And Kim, this is something I've never heard of before. What exactly is, and I'm going to do my best at pronouncing this correctly, Fibrodysplasia Ossificans Progressiva, also known as FOP.
You did perfect.
Oh, okay.
You did perfect.
Thanks.
Yeah, people butcher it all the time, but
Okay.
you actually did a really good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's complicated. So basically, it's a rare genetic disorder. The muscle, tendons, ligaments, and other connective tissues turn to bone. Very, very strange. Forms basically like a second skeleton.
Wow.
So the best way to explain it is to think of it like you broke a bone. Okay, so you break a bone, the brain sends the signal to repair the break, but in FOP, there's no break. So it's just forming bone where there wasn't an issue before, and they don't really know what triggers it because it can just happen spontaneously for no reason. Terrible. Yeah, it really sucks because it's like, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Am I going to be okay? You know, it's one of those things where, you know, if you don't manage your anxiety about it, you're going to lose it.
Okay. And you said that there's a genetic component to this? Do they know?
Yes.
Okay.
So did anybody in your family have it, or was this a one-off that you're the first one in your line that has?
I'm the random mutation.
Okay.
There's not a lot of multi-generational families. There's a few of them. There's actually a set of twins in Ireland that both have it. And then there's a couple multi-generational families around. There's a 50% chance of passing it on if I were to have a child, you know, or anyone with FOP were to have a child. There's actually a family in Georgia. The dad passed it on to all three of his children. The two girls both had a baby. One baby was just born premature with learning disabilities, but he's doing great. He's 8 or 9 now. But the other one was born with FOP, and, you know, he's mildly affected at this point, but, you know, they knew from the beginning because there is actually a genetic test for it now.
Oh, okay.
And how common is this condition? Because we had never heard of it.
Yeah, it's 1 in 2 million.
Wow.
Very rare.
Very rare.
I looked on the website this morning to make sure I had the most up-to-date information, and it says they know about 900 people in the world with it. 900.
Wow.
That's like nothing.
Yeah.
Which actually makes it one of the rarest and most disabling conditions known to man, and it's the only one known where one organ system becomes another, you know, the muscle turning to bone. It's very strange.
Are there any other conditions that are associated with FOP?
Not really. I mean, it can cause arthritis and obviously other issues pertaining to, you know, the bone growth, depending on where it grows, because there's lung restriction and stuff. But I'm mildly affected. I mean, I still have my issues. I still use a wheelchair, but I can still walk a little bit, you know. But at birth, actually, your big toes are crooked. typically.
Okay.
So they tried to fix mine, and so I can't even bend my big toes. I have no idea what that's like. So
Oh.
it's very weird to see people bend all 10 of their toes,
Mm-hmm.
because I can only bend 8 of mine.
Okay.
And does that affect your balance at all? I mean, I know the large toe is extremely important for balance.
I guess maybe a little bit, but I'm pretty good on my feet even now with the crookedness of my stature.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a lot of falls because I had to learn to walk slower, because that's what was making me fall. I haven't fallen in a while, in years, so let's keep it that way.
Knock
Yeah,
on wood.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
right there with you. Yep.
Right.
And is there any current research into FOP and possible treatments like genetic altering and that kind of thing?
Okay, so I think that they're actually looking into the gene editing
Mhm.
thing, but they're not quite there yet. But there have been, in 2006, they discovered the gene that causes the mutation, or, that causes the problem, which is one of the genes that forms the skeleton in the womb. It's just one of them got messed up.
Okay.
So they've done some studies that I've participated in, and also they have a few clinical trials going, which I also am participating in one, but it's on pause right now.
Because of COVID?
No, there is an incident with someone on the trial, and
Okay.
so they have to investigate
Mhm.
before they can continue. But I mean, I've been on this trial for 2 years, and the preliminary results are good.
Oh, good. That's
So,
wonderful.
I'm hopeful that the cure is coming. I know that was one of your questions,
Yeah.
Right. Right.
but but it's coming. It's
Mhm.
not here yet, but it's coming, and maybe not in my lifetime, being that I'm 38 years old, and it may not be in the next, 40 plus years. But who knows?
That's right. Because
Technology is
every day
advancing
they're
every day.
they're
Yeah.
doing something different.
Yeah, and it's amazing how
Yeah.
the strides that can be made. And what other treatment options are there for you at this point?
Well, typically Dr. Kaplan, he's up at UPenn in Philadelphia. He's the main research doctor
Okay.
for FOP. So he pretty much knows like most of the patients, if not all of them. I'm not really sure, but he travels. He's well traveled. He likes to meet the FOP patients, and he's a great person. But he typically, the first sign of a potential flare-up, he wants us to take prednisone, because they're anti-inflammatory.
Mm-hmm.
And, it typically helps, and they've discovered that it does, but only on certain flare-ups, and I'm not sure which ones you can't take it for. But other than that, it's pretty much just pain management. There's nothing that's going to stop it at this point,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Yeah. And what was that doctor's name again?
Dr. Kaplan. His name
KAP?
is Dr. Fred Kaplan.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
Kaplan.
Okay.
And I'm guessing if we type his name in and FOP,
It'll pop up, sure. Yeah, we'll make sure that we put a
Oh, well,
link.
his name is all over the FOP website.
Okay. What advice do you have for somebody that was, like when you say recently diagnosed, I guess it's something from birth.
Parents.
For parents that have recently had a child that has been diagnosed with FOP.
Well, first of all, there's lots of people that are diagnosed in teenage and adulthood years, because the genetic test has only been in the last 15 years or something. I was diagnosed at 15.
Okay.
And so that was in 1997. They didn't have the genetic test then. I went through a whole bunch of doctors and tests, and yeah, it was terrible. But for either the newly diagnosed or the parents, honestly, don't let it stop you from achieving your goals. I clearly didn't let it stop me, since I have a master's degree now. It just took me longer to get it, but, and while I understand that the parents are going to freak out when their child is diagnosed with something as devastating as FOP, you can't put them in a bubble as much as you want to, but you can't, because they're going to miss out on opportunities and friendships if you shelter them too much. I mean, there's obviously a level of protection because you don't want your child to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You
Sure.
don't want their joints to lock up and they end up in a wheelchair by the time they're 5 years old. You don't want that, but you don't know what's going to happen. So, don't limit them too much. Because if you limit them too much, they're just going to miss out. Like, my parents never limited me, but obviously they didn't know what was going on. I had a lot of foot surgeries from infancy, I guess, technically, because they did my surgery on my toes before I could walk. And then when I was 5, I stepped on the needle and the
Ouch.
tip broke into my heel.
Mm-hmm. Oh, geez.
God, that sounds painful.
Yeah, I still remember it, kind of. It's funny how the brain remembers traumatic experiences like that. But I had multiple surgeries on that heel because bone kept growing, and they didn't know why, so they kept removing it.
Oh.
And so I was on crutches till I was 12,
Wow.
from multiple surgeries. And then my parents finally said stop.
Mm-hmm.
And, then just before I turned 15 is when FOP showed up in my neck and then just blew up like an explosion and sent me on a bunch of doctors. So, yay, happy 15th birthday. You have a rare genetic disorder. Yeah, it was
Horrible.
I did not enjoy that diagnosis at that age.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have enjoyed it at any age,
Sure.
but 15 is a terrible time. But I only had to learn how to drive once because I was losing the mobility in my shoulders and neck while I was learning to drive.
Okay.
So, and I can still drive. I just don't have a vehicle.
Do you think that your diagnosis at such a young age and everything you've been through has influenced your career choices?
Yes, definitely. Because I have always loved working with children. I've been babysitting since I was 12. I worked in daycare briefly, right out of high school, but it just was too complicated because of all the demands of daycare. I was working with 3 and 4 year olds, and so I had to figure something out. And I attempted college in my early 20s and gave up. And then I started in my later 20s in an associate's program with no real direction. Then I found social work. And so from there, I was like, oh, yeah, see, then I could work with children. But it kind of morphed into, hating working with adults because I didn't want to do that. I wanted to work with children. And then I started working with adults. Well, I started working with teenagers in my internship in undergrad.
Mm-hmm.
And teenage population, not for me.
Okay.
And then I started working with an adult population. I'm like, it's not as bad as I thought. I actually would prefer adults because they understand better. I mean, while I can relate to children, like children flock to me. I don't even know why. I don't know. I guess because I'm a child at heart. But, I get too emotionally attached to children. And so I think that would be a major barrier. Want to help adults. My biggest thing is because I deal with access issues, I understand access issues because having a wheelchair and no transportation.
Sure.
And we have a great public transportation system here, so it's fine. But, I just want to help people with getting the access to things that they need. And eventually I'm going to open a nonprofit, but that's down the line. Right now I'm just trying to find a job.
Mm-hmm.
I have a potential interview. Well, I have an interview coming up. She just has to let me know when.
Oh, good.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
So for hospital social work, that'll be interesting.
Okay, yeah.
Well, and it's amazing, what a difference one person can make. So thank you for pursuing that as a career. And I have another question. What role have your friends and your family played in your healthcare journey? You said, your parents didn't limit you and they wanted you to get out and, be a kid. But how else have your family and friends affected your healthcare journey?
Well, my dad kind of didn't, he supported me, but from afar, like I didn't really know how supportive he was until I heard from Dr. Kaplan's secretary that my dad was calling her every week.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I didn't find that out till after he passed away in 2008. I had called Dr. Kaplan's office and I was talking to his secretary and I told her about him passing away. She was like, oh, I wondered why he stopped calling. He used to call every week.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
I never knew that. Never, ever knew that. But my mom, I would come home almost every day from school and cry to her. So she was a huge support for me. Because I wasn't popular. I was one of those quiet kids that didn't really talk to anybody. So I didn't really have much for friends growing up just because I was too shy to reach out to people. So my mom was a huge support, especially when it came to my diagnosis, because kids are cruel.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I had some people that were cruel to me, and, but that's in the past. But my FOP family, they're huge. You get diagnosed with FOP, you're part of the family, and everybody supports everybody. It's like the greatest thing in the world.
That's wonderful.
Because,
fantastic, yeah.
like, when I attend their events, like, they've been doing yearly family gatherings, and obviously this year they had to cancel it, but they did it virtually online and made it free to everybody.
Oh, very cool.
So that was awesome because a lot more people got to attend than normally would because travel expenses.
Sure.
But every time I go to one of these events, I feel, like I'm where I belong. It's great. But then I leave and I get all depressed because I left my family. It's like a grieving process. People don't understand grief comes in many forms.
Sure.
And, just leaving something that makes you feel supported and welcomed and whole, can be grief.
And is there a presence online, like Facebook or similar groups?
They have a Facebook page. We even have a monthly meeting for people who have lost family or friends with FOP. And so I'm part of that because I've lost some significant people with FOP that were a significant part of my journey. And there's mailing lists, there's a monthly newsletter. Every week they, post the birthdays for the week. So there's a lot of open communication.
It sounds like a wonderful
organization.
Wonderful organization, wonderful family.
Good support.
Yeah.
Kim,
it really is.
Right. Kim, what role does self-care take in your life?
Well, self-care is a big thing in social work, and I've had to learn self-care because I will push myself till I'm overwhelmed because I feel like having a disability, I have to work like a million times harder. And so, and I still do it where like I push myself to the point of getting overwhelmed. But music is my big self-care. Like, I don't even care. I'll sing to it, and if I'm in an environment where I can't sing, I'll just listen to it. And then going outside.
Okay.
I love to be outside. I live in South Florida, so sometimes it's too nasty hot, but this is our winter time, so, we got like 60s and 70s. I know.
We should have done the interview closer to your home. We've got 27 up here.
Yeah, I was going to say next time on-site interview.
Yes. Road trip.
Yep.
Oh, no, I lived in Chicago briefly when I was very little, but I remember the tornado drills and the missed school because of lots of snow. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, I remember all of that.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure you're missing it terribly right now on a beautiful
No.
day in Florida.
No, she's
The
not.
pictures, the view, yes, because I actually, a year ago, I just moved back here from Tennessee. I
Okay.
moved to Tennessee for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I had to just get away because I lived in Florida from 2008 until 2017. I moved to Tennessee to be closer to family because I don't want to live in Virginia, which is where I'm from. So I moved to East Tennessee. I lived there for 2 years. It was very cold in the winter. I was in a 100-year-old house, so it was drafty. And the snow was beautiful. It was great, but it was too cold for me, and it affected my joints. I had a lot of, arthritic pain, which I hate having arthritis in my 30s.
Mm-hmm.
But FOP is a great thing to have. Not really. So, I decided I had to move back to Florida, and this is where I'm at, and my master's degree is done, and now it's done.
Onward
So, yeah,
to bigger and better
I
things.
don't miss the cold.
No,
I don't miss the
no.
cold, and I hate when it's cold here, even though it's a nice break. And this time of year, we have, really low humidity, so that's great, too.
Mm-hmm.
But I still like to go outside. I don't
Okay.
care if I have to, bundle up. I'll go outside.
Okay. Well, yeah, those are two really great ways to,
Take care of yourself.
yeah, and just even like a form of meditation for music and
Yeah,
nature.
I just wish I were closer to the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
because I used to live near the ocean where I could just hop in my wheelchair and go, but right now I can't afford that view, that luxury. So while I could get there by public transportation,
Mm-hmm.
can't afford to do that all the time, But I get there when I can. Otherwise, I just go for a stroll.
And Kim, what other advice or what tips or tricks do you have for getting through flares and just improving the day to day?
Well, flare-ups are really painful, and so the best thing I could tell you about that is just take it easy, Heating pad, ice pack, pain meds, whatever you got to do, because they're terribly painful, especially hip flare-ups. Those are the worst. I've had a lot of those. But yeah, it's really difficult to deal with, and I feel like people with FOP end up having a higher pain tolerance because of that, because of how painful flare-ups are. But they're still absolutely terrible. So it's just kind of just take it easy.
Okay. Does massage help at all, or
Would that make it worse?
Okay, so massage is complicated because first of all, FOP can be triggered by anything or nothing. But light massage, as long as the person doing the massaging understands they can't put a lot of pressure, it actually does help, at least, with me.
mm-hmm.
I had a friend that would massage my neck and shoulders, and that actually helped.
Okay.
She just knew to be gentle.
Mm-hmm.
But there's other therapies, like...
How about water therapy, like hydrotherapy?
I haven't tried it, but they have suggested it to me.
Okay.
Now, I know some people do, alternative stuff, like Reiki and, I can't think of, craniosacral therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
My friend recommended it to me, and her therapist tried it on me for free, and it was incredible. And most insurance doesn't cover it.
Oh, okay.
But it was incredible. So, and that's not, they're really not even touching you. It's energy related.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, maybe as I know, integrative healthcare is becoming. There's been a greater and greater push for that. So maybe
it'll maybe the self-advocacy will just pop through for you. You know, you don't have to really work for it. It'll just happen.
Yeah, and then you'll be able to go for alternative medicine treatments, because if it works and it improves your quality of life,
it should be authorized.
Yeah.
But that's our opinion.
And I'll make a very weird suggestion. On Netflix, there's a TV show called The History of Swear Words.
Oh my gosh!
And they've actually found that swearing can help you. It deals with dopamine and the primal area of your brain, but it can actually improve your ability to tolerate pain.
Wow.
So I don't know if
that actually makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm kind of obsessed with brains.
Mm-hmm.
On the psychology level, like I've done some research into adverse childhood experiences.
Oh yeah,
we had a couple episodes on that.
Yeah,
we're big believers in
ACEs. I was looking through your list. I saw one.
Mm-hmm.
The podcast app on iPhone only went back to season 3, so I don't know if you did any.
Yeah, we have to.
I gotta work on that.
We are trying to make it more accessible, and we're also putting out transcripts on our website as well, so that you can. There's a written version of it too.
So people that can't
we will work on that.
Have hearing.
Yeah, because I saw one episode that was adverse childhood experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I added it to my playlist.
Okay.
That's
thanks for the reminder. I got to work on that.
That's a fascinating topic. That
it is. I've been to a couple trainings, and actually in Tennessee I went to a training on it that was done by a lady that works for Vanderbilt in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the best, most thorough training ever. Like, she gave us a whole binder full of everything, including statistics for Tennessee.
Okay.
And I asked a lot of questions, and I'm kind of obsessed with the whole how trauma affects brain development. So, the whole thing with you saying that swear words actually produce the dopamine and whatever, it makes a lot of sense, because there's so many things, just a smile from a child can trigger, the positive thought.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it actually, the positive feedback loop. Absolutely.
We get that from our puppies.
Our puppies, yeah. At the moment, puppies are.
Oh yeah, I have 2 dogs.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah, I recommend canine therapy for sure.
Yes. Kim, how can our listeners learn more about you and FOP? Do you have an online presence?
I actually have a couple blog sites that I post to occasionally. I haven't updated it since May.
Okay.
On the one. The other one, I don't know why I have 2 blog sites, but I do. So I don't know if you want me to email you the links, or
if you do, we'll be sure to post them on our website. But if you want to tell our listeners about it now as well, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, so the one I recently posted on was on WordPress, and it's kiwisunshine.wordpress.com, and where I was talking about the pandemic screwing with my master's degree.
Oh, okay.
Because I was in an internship in January, and then in March I had to stop, and that was my second and last semester, because I was supposed to graduate in August.
Okay.
And I had to take the summer off because of the pandemic. So that most recent blog in May was pandemic related. But then on the other one, which is Hub Pages, I couldn't figure out a link to all of my blogs on Hub Pages, but I wrote down the one that I did related to FOP.
Okay.
So it's hubpages.com/health/what-is-FOP.
Okay.
So, that from there, I'm sure you can find my other blogs, but those are all older because I seem to update WordPress more than Hub Pages. But on Hub Pages, I did that whole article that whole blog on FOP, and there's pictures and, everything. So.
Oh, good. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's a great resource. We'll make sure we put it on our Pinterest page as well, a link to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. I know I've learned a lot about a topic that I was completely unfamiliar with, and we appreciate you also pursuing a line of work in social work, because we need more people like you out there.
Yes, thank you,
making
Kim.
a difference.
I really appreciate you guys giving this opportunity.
Not a problem at all.
It's been great to get a little bit of my story out there, and also, having people learn about something that is mind-blowing, because it's really strange condition to begin with, but I find it fascinating because it's weird how it works.
Right. But knowledge is power, and the more people that understand it, the better they'll be able to interact with people that have different diagnoses like this.
They actually made a documentary that isn't available completely to the public yet. Like, you can pay for it somewhere. I don't know. It's called Tin Soldiers. I got to watch it through the FOP Family Gathering. They streamed it for free for us. But, they made it specifically to find more people with the condition that are undiagnosed.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I don't know when it's going to be widely available, but, it's out there. And I don't know a whole lot about how accessible it is at this point. Because, like I said, I watched it for free during the FOP Family Gathering back in November. So,
okay, we'll have to check.
But they're trying to make it widely available so we can get more people properly diagnosed.
Sure.
Makes sense.
Surgeries are bad.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Good to know.
Yeah, and that's what people need to know. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, we'll look for that distribution, or the distribution of that, and see if we can find it anywhere.
Well, thank you
Yeah,
again.
I'm not sure. You just look up Tin Soldiers, and the website I think is like tinsoldiers.org or .com. I'm not sure.
Okay.
We'll find it and link it on our website as well. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you can probably type in like Tin Soldiers and FOP, and maybe you'll find it, because there's other things called Tin Soldiers.
Sure. Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure, yes.
We know how that goes. We recently wrote a book, and trying to find a title that hasn't been used before is
Difficult.
challenging.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, if our listeners have any questions or comments related to today's show, they can contact us at podcastdx@yahoo.com, through our website, podcastdx.com, on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, or Instagram.
Please keep in mind that this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment, and before undertaking a new healthcare regime, and never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you've heard on this podcast.
Till next week.